Ever felt the ground shake? That sudden, terrifying jolt that sends your heart racing? Most of us think of earthquakes as a single, powerful event. But what if they came in waves? A relentless series of tremors one after another, sometimes lasting for days, weeks, or even months. This isn't a disaster movie plot. It's a real phenomenon known as an earthquake swarm. So what's really happening beneath our feet when the earth just won't stay still? Let's dive into the fascinating science of swarms. First, let's get our terms straight. A typical earthquake sequence has a clear main shock, the big one, followed by a series of smaller aftershocks that gradually decrease in strength and frequency. Think of it like dropping a big rock into a pond. You get one big splash, followed by smaller and smaller ripples. An earthquake swarm is different. It's more like throwing a handful of pebbles into the pond all at once. There's no single standout main shock. Instead, you get a cluster of many small to moderate earthquakes, with the largest quake often happening somewhere in the middle of the sequence, or not being much stronger than the others. It's this lack of a clear boss quake that defines a swarm and makes it so unsettling. You never know if the next shake will be bigger or smaller than the last. So what causes these persistent tremors? The answer usually lies deep underground, and it's not always about the classic tectonic plate smash-up we learn about in school. One of the main drivers is the movement of magma. Imagine a massive body of molten rock or magma trying to push its way up through the Earth's crust. As it moves, it forces the rock around it to crack, shift, and break. Each crack, each little adjustment releases energy and creates a small earthquake. When magma is actively moving and creating a network of new pathways, it generates a continuous series of these small quakes, resulting in a swarm. This is especially common in volcanic regions like Hawaii, Iceland, or the Yellowstone caldera. These swarms can be a sign that a volcano is waking up, or that magma is repositioning itself deep beneath the surface. Another major cause is the circulation of hydrothermal fluids. What are those? Basically, it's superheated water and other liquids moving through cracks in the Earth's crust. Think of it like a massive high-pressure plumbing system. This hot water can change the pressure within rock fractures. It can lubricate fault lines, making it easier for them to slip, or it can force cracks open. As this fluid pushes its way through the underground labyrinth of fractures, it triggers a cascade of small slips and pops, each one a tiny earthquake. These swarms are common in geothermal areas, where heat from the Earth's interior meets groundwater. The Geysers geothermal field in California, for example, is one of the most seismically active places on the planet, largely due to the injection and withdrawal of water for energy production, which mimics this natural process. And of course, we can't forget about the classic fault lines. Sometimes a swarm can happen on a complex network of smaller, interconnected faults. Instead of one long, straight fault rupturing in a single event, stress might be released piecemeal across many little segments. Imagine a zipper that's stuck. You might have to wiggle it back and forth, one tooth at a time, to get it to move. Similarly, stress on a fault system can be released in a series of small, jerky movements, creating a swarm of earthquakes. These are often called tectonic swarms and can happen away from active volcanoes. Now this brings us to a really important and often misunderstood concept, stress transfer. This is key to understanding how earthquakes talk to each other. I want you to imagine a long, stiff wooden plank resting on two sawhorses. Now imagine you and a friend start placing heavy weights all along this plank. As you add more weight, the plank starts to bend and creak. The stress is building up across the entire board. Suddenly, a small crack appears in the wood right under one of the weights. That little crack releases a tiny bit of stress right at that spot. But what happens to the rest of the plank? The stress that was held by that tiny piece of wood is now transferred to the areas next to it. Those neighboring spots are now under even more strain than before. Earthquakes work in a very similar way. The Earth's crust is like that wooden plank, under constant stress from the movement of tectonic plates. A small earthquake is like that little crack. It relieves stress in one small area, but it doesn't make the stress disappear. Instead, it shifts that stress onto the surrounding parts of the fault. This is called stress transfer. So a small quake can actually increase the stress on a nearby segment of the fault, potentially pushing it closer to its breaking point. This is why a swarm of small quakes can sometimes be a prelude to a larger event. The series of small cracks are transferring stress and loading up a bigger, stronger section of the fault until it finally gives way in a major rupture. However, and this is a huge however, it's crucial to understand that this is not always the case. Most earthquake swarms do not lead to a large earthquake. More often than not, the swarm is simply the crust's way of letting off steam. It's that series of small adjustments like the wiggling zipper that manages to release the built-up stress without a catastrophic failure. The swarm rattles and rolls for a while, and then it fizzles out. The small quakes successfully relieve the pressure, and the danger passes. So, are earthquake swarms a warning sign? Yes and no. They are a clear indicator that the ground beneath us is active and under stress. They tell scientists that something is happening. Magma is moving, fluids are circulating, or faults are adjusting. Seismologists monitor these swarms incredibly closely, using them as valuable data points to understand the mechanics of a region, but they are not a crystal ball. We currently cannot say with certainty whether a particular swarm is the beginning of the end, or just the end of the beginning. It could be the precursor to a larger quake, or it could be the main event itself, a harmless release of tectonic tension. The science of swarms shows us that the Earth is a living, breathing, and constantly adjusting planet. These clusters of quakes are a window into the powerful and complex processes happening miles below our feet. They remind us that the ground is not as solid as it seems, and that change is the only constant. So, the next time you hear about an earthquake swarm, you'll know it's not just a random series of shakes. It's a dynamic story of pressure, release, and the intricate dance of geology. A story that scientists are working tirelessly to read, one tremor at a time. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the world of earthquake swarms. If you found this fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into the science that shapes our world. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.